Hi, Borzoi community. My name is Rebecca, and I'm a part of the Better Bread team. Today, I'm going to go through our website and how to use it through a test breeding. Sorry about this thing in the screen. This is how I screen share for videos. Okay, first off, this is our landing page on Better Bread. So I'm going to show you all the cool things you could do on our website. Some of it free, some of it advanced, cool tools for breed management. If you want to go to your breed page, you would go up here to breeds, and your drop down here is Borzoi. This will give you your breed page, which will show you public dogs and various information about your breed. If you scroll down, you can see the 10 most recently uploaded dogs in the entire database, but you can also find this on your breed page that I opened here. You can see information about your breed, the 10 most recently uploaded dogs, and then also a variety of information. If you go over here, you can find all of the public dogs in the database. So any dog that is listed as public will be here. Okay, so I am going to do a test breeding video for you, but I should say that it's important to note that there have only been 30 some odd Borzoi tested, and we only have 17, it looks like, in our database currently. So a lot of the metrics may change depending on how good the initial sample was. Okay, so 2 of the dogs in our database that were volunteered for a test breeding video were from Aria. So I'm going to search Aria. You don't need to put the entire name of a dog. You can just put a part of the name of a dog in order to search them. So you can see here is AKC champion Aria's the minstrel boy. And then also Gladkey Veter, the Lost Princess at Aria. Okay, so I'm going to click on her, and we will do a test breeding between these 2 dogs. Now, there's different ways that you can do test breedings. One way that you can do it is go up here to dog search and go to test breedings. That will give you a place where you can enter the individual dogs to compare together or to do a test breeding together. But I'm going to do this through your the breeding tools over here that I will show you shortly. Okay, here you can see all the information that has been provided to us about this particular Borzoi, including the sire and dam. You can update any information on your dog, speaking of which, under My Dogs here, so you can add more information as well as a picture here. A single picture is free for all members currently, so you can go and add photos to your dog. So when people are shopping for a stud or looking at bitches, they can see pictures. Okay, so I went down here to genetics. So you click on all these and it'll expand panels. If there had been health information or temperament added for this bitch, you would find that under here. Okay, and if you click contact owner, it will not tell you who is the owner of the dog. So don't worry about your private information being shared. It will go through our website to contact them. Okay, so going through the genetic information on her public profile. Up here, you can see an advanced analysis, which will give you much more information, but all this is publicly calculated and free for all dogs in our database. Okay, so the first thing we see here are the DLA haplotypes. In the Borzoi breed, there is one specific haplotype that is carried by the majority of the dogs that have thus far been tested. And pulling up the report, that was 1160 and 2022. So this particular bitch does not have those 2 very common haplotypes. So that is good. And she has 2 different ones. And theoretically, having 2 different DLA haplotypes is good. There have been studies that have found that has reduced risk of autoimmune disease. And in other species, it's been found to be useful in fertility. Okay, so that's good. The outlier index. What is this? It is not something that is provided to you by UC Davis. It's a metric on our website that'll tell you whether or not a dog carries genetics that are very typical for your particular population or very atypical. Now, having very typical genetics is not necessarily bad. It's just as that number drops, you are breeding towards a genetic bottleneck within your breed. And if the breed average drops, that means that the breed is breeding towards a genetic bottleneck. And genetic bottlenecks can concentrate breed-specific diseases, so we want to try to avoid creating a bottleneck within a breed. So this bitch is right around breed average. Okay, now average genetic relatedness. Because we only have 17 dogs in our database, this particular metric will likely change as more dogs are added. This is dependent on what is in our database. So AGR, though, when we have large populations, is inversely correlated with outlier index. They both kind of get at whether or not a dog is very typical or atypical in relation to the population. So AGR, though, if you are aware of what mean kinship is like the genetic equivalent of mean kinship. So it's how closely related your dog is to other dogs in the database. So here you see this particular bitch has a higher than breed average AGR. That means that she is more closely related to other dogs in the database than most dogs are. So she has more relations. And you will see that down here. That also correlates to the percent of dogs that are unrelated. She is only unrelated to 41% versus what's average for your breed is to be unrelated to 54%. Again, though, this metric will change because we don't have a lot of Borzoi in our database. All right, now IR. This is the metric that you get from UC Davis, and it is an estimate of how inbred a dog is. The more negative it is, the more outbred a dog is. The more positive it is, the more inbred a dog is. Now, being inbred in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you have very high inbreeding, this does increase the risk of recessive component diseases expressing, as well as some more complex diseases depending on its how they express. So this particular bitch is more outbred than is typical for your breed. So that is theoretically good for her. This metric here is another estimate of inbreeding that we employ on our website. You can see again she is less inbred than is typical for the breed. Okay, so if I go up here to breeding tools, you can see different ways that you can sort. I usually go by OI because that will help prevent breeding towards a genetic bottleneck. Additionally, you can compare her one-on-one to another dog in the database if you know they are there. So I'm going to click on potential breedings by genetic value to the breed. And I want to remind everybody that we have a free trial for everyone who has participated in the research phase. So you have access to these tools at no cost to you. I believe I've posted it in your group, but if you have trouble finding it, please contact me and I will get you the link. All right, so here's our categories. Category 1 would be a twin of a dog, all the way to category 10, which is unrelated. Between these are different levels of relation. So if you go to category 2, you would see any dog of the opposite breed to her that is a full sibling. Category 3, category 4. So the closest dog in the database is this dog. I don't know if they are related or not. But I'm going to go here to category 8, which is where we find AKC champion Arya's the minstrel boy. So I am going to breed them. To breed a dog, you make sure you click the number of puppies you want to simulate, press 3000, then press breed. Make sure you press the breed button or it will not simulate the puppies. I've already previously simulated this litter, so it should pull up the data, but you have to wait here till it says done, and then you'll be able to pull up your analysis. But here you can see all the information about Arya's the minstrel boy. He is higher than breed average outlier index and right around breed average for average genetic relatedness. So he is slightly less typical for the breed than here by the outlier index. Average genetic relatedness, because we don't have all the tested dogs in our database, is because there's about 30 and we have 17. This will change as more are added. And he is more inbred than the bitch was. Okay, so here's our litter summary. Sorry, this is where this is annoying that this is in the corner here. But let's go through the metrics that this will spit out. So this will tell you the range of what you can expect. We're not just saying what's the average. So the average here is, so for internal relatedness, which is again the inbreeding estimate, the average would be around 0, which is what we recommend. But I always tell people, especially if you're not breeding a category 10, but even if you are doing category 10, please look at this graph and see where 0.15 falls. So 0.15, which is the number that Dr. Peterson says is where you hit high levels of inbreeding. I always recommend that you check that. So, and then if you imagine that the number of puppies falling is the area under the curve here. So you see it's probably about a fifth or a fourth of the litter will will statistically fall at high levels of inbreeding. But relatively speaking, within a closed gene pool, this is not a ton of puppies, so that would fall at that 0.15 high inbreeding level. So to me, this looks like a fairly good litter. But be aware that there is a high end range, all the way up to 0.35, which is very high levels of inbreeding for this litter. So that's why we suggest looking at the ranges. Okay, so for outlier index, which again, this tells us whether or not we're breeding towards a genetic bottleneck, you want to breed at or above the average outlier index. And again, outlier index is inversely proportionate to the AGR, which is like mean kinship. So you're helping breed away from a genetic bottleneck, which will retain your genetic diversity within your breed if you keep your average outlier index at or above your breed average. Sorry, I have dogs. I am a breeder, and our garbage man just came. I work from home. Okay, so the average outlier index of this litter is above your average, and but you do have a low end range that'll take you towards a genetic bottleneck. But then quite a lot of them might also fall above your average. So again, this is right at the breed average. This is right at the breed average. I am sorry, my dogs are barking. I'm wishing they would stop. Right at the breed average, and there is a high end range. So I would say that this is pretty good. Okay, so let's go to the last thing that we say to consider. The last thing that we say to consider is the DLA haplotypes. So here you see that the sire does carry that very typical DLA haplotype, but he also carries another type that is less typical for your breed. So, but neither one of them is the same. So they carry two different types each. And that means that all the puppies will be heterozygous in their DLA haplotypes, and that most of them are actually not well represented DLA haplotypes. So if you see here, again, 1160 and 2022 are the most typical DLA haplotypes in this breed. So, and then the next one is here, 1006 and 2007. So this is a good breeding, in my opinion, because the puppies will have heterozygous DLA haplotypes. On average, they would have greater than breed average outlier index, and on average, they would be outbred. We recommend breeding for an average around 0 and checking your inbreeding values. So all in all, I actually think that this is a pretty good breeding. Okay, and again, my apologies for the dogs barking at the garbage man. Okay, so now I'm going to go show you some other neat things that you can do with our software. So I'm going to go to the boy. So I was thinking about this the other day. What are things that I do that are kind of interesting with our data? And one thing I do is, say I have a male and I know someone else who has another male that I think is pretty awesome. And I want to know if the male I think is cool, that's not my dog, if he does a breeding to a female, whether or not I might be able to get a female from that litter that would work with my male. So you can go to this place called Genetic Relationships, and you can look at whether or not your male is unrelated to that male that you like. So say there's a male I see in this list. Yes, he is unrelated. Then you can also look at the female that male is meant to be bred to. And that would tell you whether or not likely the puppy will be unrelated. Puppies from that litter will be unrelated to your female. So that's one thing I do when I'm considering breedings. Another thing I do is, say that you have a a bitch she was your foundation bitch. You've had her tested. She lived a long and healthy life, longer than your breed average, and she was never sick a day in her life. And you know that that's a genetic influence that you would like to have retained in your puppies. So if I had her tested, she would show up in these genetic relationships tabs, even though she's spayed. As long as you keep her active in the database, she will show up in these genetic relationships. So when I'm testing puppies down the line, I can see which ones are closer related to that female than other puppies. And I might want to consider keeping one that's closer related to her because I want to maintain that influence on my line. Alternatively, say that she had been very sick when she was younger or when she got older with a breed specific disease. I can do the contrary. I could look to see whether or not or look for puppies who are less related to her to breed away from that genetic influence in my line. Sometimes we say, well, you should just cull the line if there's unhealthy dogs. But the reality is, at some point in your breeding, you will have some dogs that have some sort of health issue because that is just the nature of breeding dogs. So this can help us breed towards or against genetic influence. So any dog that is neutered will still show up in these breeding lists as long as you have allowed for them to remain public and you've not marked them inactive. Okay, so again, here you can see what dogs are closest related to this particular male in the database. And again, there's not too many because there aren't that many dogs uploaded, but you can see he doesn't have too many close relatives. The closest one is this one, which I do not know if is actually related to him or not, but that's the closest related dog in the database. Okay, well, I hope that you all enjoyed this video. I know it's a lot to take in, and I hope it kind of showed some of the cool stuff that you can do with your data to work towards breed management, but also improve the health of your lines for the long term. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we will get back with you and try to help you understand. And if you have questions, other people do as well. This is not something you just naturally get. So, all right, thank you for watching.